Today I'm here with Cory Sterling. Cory has been a lawyer since 2015, and in 2016, he started his own law firm, Conscious Counsel, which specializes in offering legal services to coaches, health and wellness professionals, and heart-leading business owners.
Just think about a lawyer as being a player on your team, and it doesn't have to be negative, it can be sexy.
Cory speaks 5 languages, has lived on 4 continents, and has traveled to over 90 countries and operates his law firm entirely online so he can live his best life while traveling and helping clients live their best life through operating at best legal practices.
The problem is that people are signing things they don't understand.
And today, we will be breaking down the legal activities within your fitness studio, stuff that you want to know about. So stay tuned.
If you're running a business and you plan on growing and expanding, you will interact with the law, and if you don't know what you're doing, you will have problems. You can pay me a smaller amount up now, stress-free, or you can wait, but at one point you're gonna have to pay the piper.
Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Mike Garcia. Welcome back to another episode of the GSD Show, and today we are having a GSD Pro episode. I'm super excited, man. We have a topic we have never talked about, and it's legal stuff. Now, before you go, oh, great. I want the marketing, I want the sales stuff. I get it. That's the stuff that you consider sexy. But you got to do the unsexy stuff if you want the sexy stuff to perform better. Because sometimes not focusing on the unsexy stuff, which could be legal, which could be your accounting, which could be systems and operations, that can make all the other stuff not work nearly as well or put you at risk. And so today we're going to talk about how we can eliminate a lot of that risk. And we've got a great guest on. I'm going to introduce him in a minute. But really quick before I do, I really want to make sure that you guys like this episode throughout. Once you feel like, man, I got value, go and hit the like button. If you really liked it, comment and tag someone that you thought should watch this episode. And if you really liked it, go ahead and share it with the world or with somebody that you think should have watched it. Also, if you haven't already subscribed to the GSD Show, make sure you subscribe. You could do it on iTunes, you could do it on Spotify, you could go on Google Play, wherever you feel comfortable. You could also go to YouTube and subscribe to our channel there. And if you guys like what you're hearing, you're like, man, I want to learn more about this, and how can I learn more about what's going on? You can just give us a call here at 480-750-9774. Cool? All right, today we've got Cory Sterling on the show. Cory, welcome.
Mike, what's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Man, I'm excited. I'm excited to have you. And so guys, just so you know how I know Cory, I went to the Bold conference. As a lot of you guys know, I go to conferences throughout the year that are industry focused in 2 industries, right? So fitness studio, what's going on in the fitness space, and then marketing sales, what's going on in the marketing, advertising, sales world, and how can I bring these worlds together? It's my goal. That's exactly what I do here at Loud Rumor and everybody else on my team. And so we decided to go to Bold, and we actually got to see you talk. And I went in there because I'm like, you know what? I don't spend enough time learning about the legal stuff for fitness studios. I know the basic stuff. I felt like I did. And then I got in your talk, and I'm like, dude, I'm off. This guy you were dropping some really good tips. And the great thing is your delivery was great. And everyone was getting it, and you were relating to them. It's not like you were talking about stuff that they're not going through, like stuff that, oh, maybe when I get to 500 employees, I'll deal with that. No, like when you have 3 employees, you probably need to be worried about this, which was really great. So, Cory, I want to first commend you. That was a great talk, man.
Thank you very much.
Great talk. And also thank you for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure to be in North Scottsdale.
Yeah. Now I asked you this. This is interesting, guys. When I saw you at Bold, I go, where are you based out of? What was your answer to me?
I don't remember. I probably said everywhere.
That's what you said.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I work online.
Uh-huh.
I'm a self-titled traveler.
Okay.
So basically, in a very brief history, I worked in a big law firm. I wore a suit. I did that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always looking forward to vacation days and travel days. I've traveled my whole life. And then at one point I just said, you know what, if I'm going to be a lawyer, I want to do it on my terms.
Mm-hmm.
So I created a legal practice that I could operate from anywhere in the world.
And you do.
And I do.
So where were you recently?
I've had a pretty big week.
Yeah, let's hear it.
The
real
week
quick.
the week started in Ukraine. It was
Okay.
Ukraine, Estonia, Norway, United States, Bermuda, and now back to United States.
That's in the last week?
That's in 7 days.
Man, so you're on a plane a lot.
It's not always like this. I'm based in Brazil at the moment. I'm going to go to Cape Town for 4 months this summer. So
Wow.
I like going where I feel. That's my whole thing. I'm living in the year of feeling.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
if I feel like being in a place, I'm going to go there.
That's amazing, man. Well, thank you for feeling like being in Arizona today.
Thank you for having me. I do. It feels good.
All right, awesome, man. So there's a lot of things that I really want to cover with you. And for everyone watching, we put up the Sports Center theme for you so you can see what's coming up. Everybody listening, just so you know, if you watch this episode, it's a pro episode. Therefore, we got the Sports Center sidebar, so you'll see not only what topic we're talking about, but what topics are coming up. And we've got a lot of really good things I actually want to hit home with you here. One of them is, let's just really talk about law in general, first off, with fitness studios. How many fitness studios would you say, because you work with a lot of them, how many fitness studios, wellness companies, would you say don't even have an attorney that they know they can call if they need one?
Over 85% of those that I work with.
Why is that a problem?
It's a problem because their business is at risk.
In what ways? Like, what are the biggest risks they're going to face?
Basically, the way that you want to think about law is that you're operating a business. If you have any intention to grow and you want to actually be a lawful business and achieve your financial goals, you're going to grow. As you grow, you're going to interact with the law. Not doing things properly will ultimately put you financially at risk. It will put the stress of your business at risk. You can lose your intellectual property. I mean, there's so many different ways. But basically what I try to tell people is, like, just think about a lawyer as being a player on your team, and it doesn't have to be negative. It can be sexy. In your intro, you said law is not sexy, and I want to challenge you on that.
Well, law generally isn't sexy, but there's people that can make it sexy.
They can make it sexy. Yeah, so, and I think that what I've learned about law, I've been through a lot. I've worked at big law firms and small law firms, and I just saw consistently how people felt about their lawyer. And they always felt negative, stressed. This is going to cost so money. It's going to cost so much money. It's terrible. This person's unrelatable. They're not human. They don't understand what my business is going through. And then I just said, I think I want to humanize law. I want people to understand the human aspect of it and take a more holistic approach to working with the lawyer and using the law.
Yeah. At your talk, you gave points like these are the things that I think you're like biggest at risk for, or things that you should be considering, that kind of stuff. If you were to say like top three, top four, whatever you typically have up in your head, you're like, I know these are the top 2, top 4, top 5, whatever it is. What are the top things that the average fitness studio owner should be concerned about, or should be at least paying attention to? Because if they're not, that's probably one of their greatest risks in their business.
I'd say one would be agreements generally.
So let's talk about that real quick.
Sure.
So what do you mean?
So agreements is the word that I use for contracts. Part of making law sexy is changing the way that we speak about it. Contracts, I think, is a terrible word, and no one really likes it. Everyone has all these feelings about it.
Why is that?
Why is contracts a terrible word? Probably because of the media.
Yeah.
And just what you see on television and movies about lawyers and...
Is there a difference between the two?
No, it's semantics.
Is it like lawyer and attorney are the same thing too?
They are the exact same thing. Yeah. Attorneys in the United States.
Okay.
I think in the Commonwealth, we're called lawyers.
Okay, I've always wondered that. I probably
there you go. Attorney's a USA term. So you introduce me as an attorney. I don't see myself as such.
Okay,
I see myself as a lawyer.
You're in Brazil and you're everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. So contracts typically just a negative way of using
this
that
is
word,
the problem. The
word.
problem is that people are signing things they don't understand.
Yeah.
That's number one. If you want to know what the issue is, that's what the issue is. They'll either download something from the internet that they don't know what it means, and they'll sign it, and then they'll get their clients to sign it, and they'll get their employees or their contractors to sign it.
What's an example of like an agreement that typically, or something in an agreement that typically is like a red flag or something that they don't understand, and that's what's gotten you in trouble?
What I've seen, intellectual property is a very, very big part, especially for a lot of businesses. The intellectual property is basically the protection of ideas, or something that you create either in a video, in audio, or any incorporeal idea that you create. People will sign agreements where the intellectual property rights are not properly laid out or established. So the risk that you run is you have this awesome business, you come up with a program, a teacher training, some sort of a fitness program, and the people that you're working with at law are entitled to ownership in that.
Really?
Yes, of course. So unless you have an agreement that communicates the expectations that you have in the relationship, people will download something from people will download something from the internet, sign it, get their employees to sign it, and then as a result, all of the money and time that they're investing into building something is at risk. And they may not have the rights that they think they have in it.
So what could happen in that situation? Like, would they get a letter? Would they get a call? Like, how would that work? Just paint the picture so I can be really afraid.
I wrote a book that just recently got published called The Yoga Law Book.
The Yoga Law Book. So let's put that up on the screen as well.
Yoga Law
Book. Where can they get that?
They can get it from Amazon.
Just go to Amazon.
Yeah,
Okay,
the Yoga Law book. I
Okay.
chose a title for good SEO purposes.
Yeah, good.
So in that book, I tell the story of a client who developed an amazing teacher training program. This is a client. These are real people. This actually happened. They paid an instructor to come contribute part of the curriculum to that program. This could be for a spinning studio. This could be for a gym, for anywhere that you're creating any sort of program or certification. They pay the instructor to help contribute. The instructor's part of the first time they run it. After that, they run away to Bali. The instructor's done, then the studio grows. More and more trainings, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. And then the instructor comes back and says, hey, actually I'm entitled to 50% of what you've earned because half of the ideas that you're using are mine. I contributed them. We didn't agree to anything otherwise.
Wow.
As such.
That's crazy.
That's one part. I've seen a lot. Mike,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot.
How long have you been doing this?
3 years.
3 years? And then how many businesses have you worked with in that time frame?
Hundreds.
Really?
Hundreds.
And how did you get into this? Like, what made you decide on this career?
Being a lawyer. I used to work in the NFL.
Okay.
So I worked in media services for the Oakland Raiders, and I did a lot of informational interviews. I met Roger Goodell. I met all these different executives at ESPN and NFL, and I said to all of them, at the time I was 23, and I said, what would you say to someone like me? And all of them said, go to law school or get an MBA. Which is interesting because I think in 2019 the answer would be different.
Yeah.
Because now there's influencers and
Right.
so many of my clients, haven't finished high school and are influencers, and
Wow, that's amazing.
so at that point that sort of put the seed in my mind. And then after that I worked in the Middle East for a year, and I was part of an organization. We organized soccer tournaments for Israeli and Palestinian kids, and that I was doing media or marketing for them.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, like, I want to have a bigger impact with this organization. How can I do it? And I think attorney or lawyer is a title where you can affect change and you can be a big part of the program.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we got a few of them that we need to go to every once in a while, just for counsel. Like, hey, what do we do in this situation?
Yeah.
Is this the right thing to do? What am I not thinking about here? Is there something I'm not thinking about?
I
Right?
commend you for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's really important, and I think what people don't realize about the relationship with attorneys is that it can be it can be easygoing and relaxed, and it's just like, oh, I've come up with this problem. What do you recommend? And the cool thing is being an attorney is that you see the same problems. Fitness studios, I see the same issues over and over again. That for me, it's like clockwork. Like, this is what we need. Super easy, 24 hours taken care of. You go, and it's like, for me as an attorney, I want people growing their business. I want them reaching their goals. You do you. You focus on the things that you're amazing at. Let me take care of this stuff that is overwhelming and stressful for you.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. So the agreements, we get that. Intellectual property. So when it comes to like trademarks.
Yeah.
Okay, so how are people not using trademarks in this industry where you believe they should be?
Okay, trademarks are not being used effectively when they're not registered.
So let's say I open up a studio right now.
Cool.
Because we are trademarked, like all of our stuff's
Yeah.
trademarked, right? But let's say I open up a studio called like GSD Fitness, right? If I open up GSD Fitness, what do I need to do?
What do you need to do?
Yeah, to get it trademarked and to trademark it correctly to make sure like it's done.
It's not that difficult. You have two options. One is you can do it on your own. It's a difficult process. Secondly, you can work with a lawyer to have them help you do it, or a registered trademark agent.
So if I was going to do it myself, could I mess it up?
Yeah, of course you could.
Okay, so that's annoying.
It's
So I wouldn't even do
sort
it.
of like if you have some sort of fitness expertise.
Yeah.
Let's say with kettlebells, you're amazing with kettlebells.
Yeah.
And there's a kettlebell in your gym. I could go there without knowing anything and try to do it.
Yeah, you can mess it up though.
Yeah. What do I know what to do?
Okay, and so like, typically, if you want to get something trademarked like
Yeah.
GSD Fitness, right? How much would that cost generally for like someone to get that done for you?
Usually $1,600 roughly.
And one time,
One time.
forever, for life. Now you got it done.
I think it's 25 years it's good for, and then you can re-register for a nominal fee afterwards.
Yeah, that's normal.
People don't understand the true value of it. But I just want to talk a little bit about like the issue. You asked me, okay, what happens if I don't? I'm working with a client right now, really big, massive event, and never trademarked. And now a competitor has come into the market, and doing everything right off the bat,
take 'em out.
trademark. And then what happens is the registry awards people who are proactive in registering the trademark. So they say, cool, you've got this IP, we want you to be awesome. Go ahead and register and protect it, and then you'll be on your way. We don't want to worry about that or worry about anything. If you don't register your trademark, even if you've used it before, by not registering and someone else registering a similar mark before you, they then have better priority. So then at that point, you're going to have to invest in a lawyer to challenge the trademark, go through the whole process, possibly settle, possibly negotiate.
Possibly lose.
Possibly lose your entire brand.
Yeah.
And also it'll end up costing much more money for you to fight it than for you to just register it right off the bat.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I think is a big challenge for most entrepreneurs. Most entrepreneurs, when you look at DISC, the personality assessment, DISC, D-I-S-C, many of them are categorized at DI, which is dominant, and I don't know what the I technically stands for, but it's like sociable, right? You're just very easy to talk. I'm a high D, high I, right? So I'm very dominant. I get you done is like the perfect way to describe what a D is. And then I is just a really great communicator, gets along with people, gets along with all different types of people, and just wants to have great conversations, make everyone feel comfortable. And then you got the S and the C, and these are two different traits. Usually they're around people that are more cautious, careful, more empathetic, more analytical, more, they need to double, triple check everything. They're more in protection mode, right? And I think the thing with high D and high I is they always think things are just going to work out well for them. And they're right, because even when they don't, they'll figure it out. So and every time they do, it's validated. So they keep being right, and they keep justifying their ignorant behavior, mine included, right?
Yeah.
In the past, I've now understood that I have to hire a lot of C's around me. So I've got like a VP of operations, a high C. I've got a finance director that's a high C. My attorneys, I can just tell I didn't make them do a DISC assessment, but they're C's, right? Yeah. But it's cost me money to not be thoughtful and prepare for a situation versus how to get back on track. Getting back on track costs money. Being prepared usually costs a lot less. It just costs us getting outside of our typical way of flowing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
For sure. And one thing that I noticed with a lot of clients in yoga, I would ask clients what they're doing and what legally do you have to set up for your business. One client was running a retreat to Thailand for the first time, 50 people, and I was like, oh, what are your agreements like? Is insurance in order? And you know what she said? The universe has my back. The universe is going to take care of everything. And you know what? For me, I in so many ways I understand it, but I just say like, look, the universe has your back so long as you're being prudent and you're acting responsibly.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest lessons that I learned in law, and the first day I became a lawyer, I went for lunch with my mentor, and he's like, yeah, Cory, now you're a lawyer, I want to take you for lunch, I want to tell you all these amazing things. And he had one story, and he's like, you're just going to tell your clients one sentence. You're going to say, pay me now or pay me later. And back to the first thing I said, if you're running a business and you plan on growing and expanding, you will interact with the law, and if you don't know what you're doing, you will have problems. You can pay me a smaller amount up now, stress-free, or you can wait and be your D and be your I and dream and believe that everything's going to work out, but at one point you're going to have to pay the piper. And it really sucks when it's 5 to 10 times more than it should be, and you're not sleeping.
Under pressure, no preparation for it.
That's
you weren't
the worst.
Expecting it.
Stress is the worst. No one likes that.
The sales guy in me, you want to know what I would want to said if she would have said the universe will take care of me? Like, I know, man. It's a great thing the universe brought us together on this call, so I could be that guy that has your back.
Yeah, that's it. That's just it. And I guess you can choose the signs that you want to see.
Yeah.
But I'm a yoga teacher. I have a lot of friends in the yoga scene. I run a yoga festival in Canada every summer, so I get it. But also I'm lucky to have that lawyer part where I see the same people make the same mistakes over and over again. I'm like, okay, $3,000, let me do everything for you. You go chill out. And even though you don't know why you're thanking me, you will be thanking me.
Yoga studios, to me, are the most frustrating. We work with studios from yoga, Pilates, bar, TRX, spin, HIIT, right? All that stuff, kickboxing. And yoga is the most frustrating for two reasons. And they complement the frustration together. Reason number one is they don't believe that they need to sell the people that are in their studio wanting to be sold. They just gruusfraba. Like, they just kind of like, if you want to sign up, just here it is.
Yeah.
Just pay whichever package suits your needs,
Yeah.
whichever one. And it's like, they don't know what package suits their needs. Some people are passive. My wife won't sign up unless somebody says, hey, what do you think about signing up today? My wife won't, because she doesn't want to be aggressive. She doesn't want to, my wife's super passive. She'll walk right out if you ask her to walk out. Meanwhile, she wants to sign up. The other reason it's frustrating, which is what makes this one twice as frustrating, is they're the easiest one to generate leads for. Because people literally search yoga, right? Like if you're Orange Theory, people don't search like fitness studio that does HIIT training. And like you don't even know what to search for that. You just type in gym or fitness, right?
Yeah.
But yoga, Pilates, bar, people type that in specifically. Yoga is number one. So there is more activity, more opportunities to sell in yoga than anything else, and they just don't feel like they need to sell. Like the universe will make the sale happen.
Yeah, it's
tough.
It's a fine line. I think that's what makes yoga so special, and I think even in 3 years, I've seen a lot in the way of professionalization of that industry. Mm-hmm. And I mean, a lot of people would even resent the use of the word industry in the same sentence as yoga, because
really?
Of course, it's a very spiritual practice. It's about mind and body and breathing, and there's so much deep lineage and history with it. Whereas like, okay, or HIIT workouts, right? It's like, okay, it's a trend.
Right.
We could say that. Yoga's like, it's such an important part of so many people's lives and so many different cultures around the world that I think the people who are drawn to it don't necessarily, their goal may not be to sell as much as possible. Yeah, and I think that's what makes it beautiful, and that's also why I love working with them so much, that really fine balance between, how can I make a living of this, but also how can I build a community and a safe and wonderful place for people to practice. That's why I love it. That's why I wrote the book.
That makes sense. I still wish they could sell better so they can help more people live that joyous life, But I get it.
Yeah,
it's a different human being.
It's a different human being.
Well, good thing they get more leads then.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's go into the next thing here. Series of relationships with law.
Yeah.
When you say series of relationships, like what does that mean?
It's a paradigm shift. That the way that I want people to think about law is just basically what I tell them to do. The exercise is put yourself on a piece of paper, write your name, your business name, and then just think about, draw a line to every relationship that you have in your business. So at GSD, you have your employees, you have your viewers, you have your guests, you've whoever there is. Those are all of your different relationships. Mm-hmm. The way that law works is with each of those relationships, you have different obligations and different rules that you have to follow. Mm-hmm. And to make law practical and approachable, I just tell people, like, look, don't get super overwhelmed about all of this. Focus on each relationship. How can you communicate your expectations openly and honestly in that relationship? And in doing so, you will avoid 99.9% of the problems.
Wow.
And this is what I've seen about being a lawyer. When you have the uncomfortable conversation at the beginning about what you actually want in a relationship, if you're able to make it through that point and both parties agree that this is what they want or that they're open to agreeing to those terms, you avoid the problems. The problems come up when you don't talk about things and there are assumptions made by one or both parties about what's going to happen in the relationship. That's when you get sued. That's when things blow up.
Give me an example. Give me an example of something you've seen where that didn't happen and it hurt in any form of the relationships, whether it's employees, members.
One of my clients runs a big conference. Okay? Big conference. Has a lead salesperson who's in charge of partnerships. There was a misunderstanding on what the amount of commission would be given based on sponsorships and partners made. We're talking tens and thousands of dollars here. The salesperson believed that even if they brought in in-kind sponsorships, so like, hey, we're going to give kombucha or we're going to give coconut water, whatever it is, excuse me, the value of that, let's say 10,000 kombucha bottles is worth $30,000, therefore I should be entitled to 20% of $30,000.
Got it.
Not mentioned. The agreement just said sponsorships, any sponsorship brought in.
And in your eyes, you're not thinking one's right or wrong, you're just thinking there should have been an agreement to make that clear.
100%. What it should say specifically is, in the event that a sponsorship is given in kind, then blah, 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 whatever. And this is the whole thing. What clients will always, they'll send me agreements or they'll ask me questions and they're like, is it okay if I want this? Is it okay if I want that? And I always say the same thing. There's no such thing as a good agreement and there's no such thing as a bad agreement. All that matters is that you're communicating what you're actually expecting in this relationship.
Exactly.
You choose. Two people do whatever you want. I don't care.
And then at the end of the day, an agreement can be adjusted, right? Like if somebody says, hey, this term specifically here, I'd like it altered, as the holder of that agreement, the person that wrote the agreement or got like the fitness studio, I can decide if I want to agree to the adjusted term, correct?
Of course. Even yesterday on the plane, I was going through an agreement for a fitness studio who's changing an important part of the agreement. And, you know, the client says, how do I do this? How do I bring it up? And I said, be a real person, you know, go to this person that you're working with, tell them that you'd like to change it, explain why you want to change it, listen to them about what they're saying. I always tell people, like, listen, play detective to all the relationships that you have. Right. We can change the agreement.
So when you say negotiate, because I asked you earlier, I was like, hey, when do you think you should negotiate? And you said, like, you can always negotiate,
yes.
Right? So what do you mean by that?
What I mean about that is specifically in the fitness and yoga industries, a lot of people, two things will happen. One is they're going to receive an agreement and they're going to think, oh my God, I can't push back on any of this. A lease is a classic example where people will send me, they'll pay me to review a lease. Hey, can you go over this? I'm like, okay, well, this is terrible, this is terrible, this is like, but we can't do that. We can't give it back to them. I'm like,
because
of course
in their
you can.
eyes, their members don't adjust agreements.
Yeah, and it's just, you just assume that when you're getting an agreement, oh, this is the term, these are the terms, this is what I have to sign, I'm just going to sign. And I always tell people, no way. You push back 100%. And that leads to the second point, which is the one who is supplying the agreement wins.
You know, that's something that we started doing probably about a year and a half ago. Whenever it's like if somebody asks me to speak at a conference, rather than wait for the speaker agreement, I'll usually send over my speaker agreement.
Of course.
Same thing goes for the lease here. We actually created the terms of what we wanted in regards to TIs or tenant improvements. You're already listening, tenant improvements and terms, how many years and what we wanted the cams to be and all that stuff, right? And obviously we got shot down with some stuff.
Cool.
But I'm sure I got some stuff that I wouldn't have gotten if I just let them deliver it first.
And the thing that people don't understand is when you're receiving an agreement, someone is giving you a document with the best, absolute best terms in their favor. Mm-hmm. And they're giving it to you. Yeah. And people will think like, oh, well, I should just sign the contract. And like, that's what people think. So when I say you can negotiate everything, I mean, A, you can always push back. You don't have to sign anything that you're not comfortable with. And secondly, always use your own agreement because in that particular relationship, you are then creating the best terms on your behalf. The same way when you get hired to speak at a gig, wherever it is, you probably have things about a rider, you have things about transportation and accommodation, whatever, that the other agreement won't have, but you can say like, look, if you want to bring me on, this is how you do it. Yeah. These are my terms, as opposed to getting the general template of what they send to everyone. It's just use your own agreement always.
You know what the issue before I started doing this in my head, and I'm sure for a lot of the viewers, listeners today, they may be dealing with it too if they're not there yet, was I didn't want to insult the person that I sent my agreement to because I didn't know where they were at and what they expected. And so, man, what if I ask for this and it's just obscene and they think I'm an idiot or they think I'm out of my mind, right? And I had that feeling. And then, I don't know if you ever read the book Never Split the Difference?
Yes.
What did you think of that book? I love it.
It's absolutely one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And probably this principle is rooted somewhere in that book.
It is. And it's said, make your offer first.
Yeah.
Don't care if it's stupid or silly. Let them say it behind your back. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No one in your family, friend circle, or anybody's going to know that they thought you were an idiot by putting that in the agreement. Maybe you weren't even an idiot. Because at the end of the day, maybe, let's say something you wanted for $1,000, they were expecting to charge you $5,000 or something like that. Well, now maybe they'll do $3,000 or $3,500 because they may think that you think it's crazy. You're so far from the sale, they'll meet you somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, they're always offering first is a great one. So if you guys haven't read the book, Never Split the Difference.
I think
really
it's Voss or Haas. I forget his name.
I can't remember the name, but we'll put it in the show notes for the listeners and for the viewers, like the book's right here.
I saw that he also came out with an online course. He's actually someone I follow quite a bit because that book made an impact on me. Do you remember the chapter about the kidnappings
I remember the
Haiti.
kid. I read this book like 3 years ago when I read
Cool.
this. So
I just remember it was amazing because he noticed the pattern with all the kidnappings that people would always be kidnapped on Monday and released on Friday because the people wanted money to party for the weekend. And it's just like, I think, his whole the Black Swan group and the Black Swan concept of like, once you uncover that one piece,
yeah,
everything changes within the negotiation. But on your point, I think that actually speaks a bit to self-worth and self-value.
Mm-hmm.
When you're confident enough and you get to the point where it's like, cool, I have value, I have worth. If you want to have me, you take my terms.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to like being so grateful for the opportunity to participate that
Yeah.
you don't want to screw anything up.
Yeah, I think too, I just stopped caring about looking or feeling stupid in someone else's eyes. I think that comes
Awesome.
to self-worth too, right?
Yeah.
Because I have to understand, like in law, for instance, I know that I know a minuscule fraction of what you know, right? So I am dumb compared to what I could be if I read all this stuff. Dumb's not the negative word. It's just ignorant, maybe is the better
Yeah,
word, right?
or uninformed.
I'm ignorant, uninformed, right? I don't know. So it's okay. I don't have to. Just like anything that I'm working on, whatever it might be, whether it's podcasts, whether it's, sales, marketing, whatever it is, you're not as informed as I am. So you may ask me a question. You're so far off from really getting the concept of what we know here, but that's okay. The fact is that you asked the question. At least you're going to start getting some answers, and in negotiating, it's the same thing. I got this sense where I'm just not that important. Now that can sound like what do you call it? Almost like a what's that word?
Self-demeaning?
Self-demeaning, yeah. But I don't mean it in a self-demeaning way. I mean it in the way where it's like there's really important things happening in the world, and like for me to worry about like looking like I didn't know something.
Yeah.
Is that important? Like, it's just not. Like, in the next 5 minutes, we're all over it, and now I at least got the information I want, or I got the conversation that I wanted around this negotiation. I'm closer.
Yeah.
So I think that's something, too. Whenever you're negotiating terms, whether it's with, an employee, or whether it's, because even with employees, right, counter offers for coming on board with a certain salary or anything like that, whether it's employees, vendors, partners, anything like that, like, I've just learned to not worry about looking dumb when I put out my offer. Just put the thing that in my perfect world, this is exactly what I would want. This is how I'd want it to be perfectly.
It.
And then if we're far, it's okay, but we may end up being closer at the end of it all.
And it never hurts to ask.
Never hurts to ask, absolutely. So when investing in a service agreement, what's the smartest decision you'll ever make?
The smartest decision you'll ever make in a service agreement is rooted in how well you know your business,
Okay.
how well you know your margins, how you know where you make your money and how you make your money. And then having an agreement basically favor those terms as best as possible.
So give me an example of that.
Let's say if you're talking about retention or something of the like, making sure that your service, like there's a story that I have, one of my first stories in law was called No Refunds,
Okay.
where a client had a service agreement for services provided, and there was no refund clause. 2 words, no refund. No refunds, all sales are full and final. Client performs the services, does all the things that they're supposed to do, $5,000+. Not the end of the world. Most of my clients are small business owners, but to them $5,000 is a lot. To me, $5,000 is a lot. The person they provide the services for say, actually, I don't really like what you've done. I want all my money back. Just as simple as that. So my client reaches out to me. I did not draft the agreement that did not have the no refund provision, but client reaches out to me freaking out, gets a demand letter. We can talk about demand letters, and says, I have to pay $5,000. I've got 2 kids and a mortgage on the house. I can't do any of this. I already did all the work. Took me 3 months to do all of this work for this client. 2 words. What ended up happening was legal bills over $10,000, which sucks, but this person, the other party was committed to what they believed was right, ends up in a settlement for however much money. We ended up with a good settlement in the end, but every single day that client called me crying.
Wow.
Every single day.
Now you're saying they didn't have it, but they just could have had that.
Yes.
That's all
So
they
that's
needed.
an example. The question was service agreements, why is it the best investment? As an example, no refunds.
Now, what if you have no refunds and the guy says, "Well, I'm going to do a chargeback on my credit card"?
I've never experienced that, but this is what I can tell you. In law, in working with a lot of clients, I have something that I call the screenshot defense. So what I want is I draft an agreement for you. Again, you understand your business, you understand the pain points and where your greatest opportunities are. We have an agreement that communicates your expectations openly and honestly. Client signs it. Some sort of issue comes up. What I tell all my clients, all I want you to do is screenshot the particular provision of the agreement that applies to the complaint, whatever it may be, send the reply to the email, include a screenshot, hey, this is the signed agreement, this is provision 5.3 of the agreement that you signed. I'm really sorry that you're upset, but as you can see, there's no legal recourse. So far, thankfully, 10 out of 10 times that's what works.
Yeah. So I want to talk about, you talked about demand letters earlier, and I want to talk about that because I've gotten them, or cease and desist or whatever.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between those
No,
two?
a demand letter basically is someone sending you a letter threatening to sue you in some circumstance.
Okay, did I get a cease and desist, or is that
Yeah.
probably, am I using the wrong
No,
terminology?
you got a cease and desist.
Is it the same thing? Is
Yeah,
it like
a
lawyer,
demand letter is
attorney?
like an umbrella term. It's like
Got it.
someone sending you a letter where they're demanding something of you.
Okay.
And usually it ends in a threat that if you don't abide by what the request is, that they're going to sue you and it's going to be terrible.
Okay, so how scared should someone be when they get a demand
They
letter?
shouldn't be scared at all.
Yeah.
And it's because, coming back to this whole point of agreements where when you receive an agreement, it's going to be all of the best terms in the other person's favor. What people, because they have no experience with demand letters, they don't know what to expect. They take everything at face value. So basically a demand letter is usually sent by someone where it says like, hey, you've done something terribly, offensively wrong. It's awful how bad this is. As a result, I've suffered all of these damages, and now I'm going to come after you and sue you unless you do X, whatever it is.
Whether it's pay a settlement amount,
Sure.
or whether it's stop using
stop
this
doing
thing.
something or pay this or whatever.
Right.
The problem is people get it and they completely freak out. And they're like, oh my God, I'm getting sued. It's sort of like a rite of passage in life. I'm getting sued, I'm gonna freak out. This is going to be terrible.
Yeah.
I can't go on vacation, all of these things. But I've been through the demand letter process so many times, and it's never once turned out into a lawsuit, because
Yeah.
you always negotiate, you always settle.
Because they don't want to take you to court either.
No, it's
a
so
process.
it takes years, and
Yeah.
90% of lawsuits end up settling. But the whole point is you're getting a letter from someone who is creating this scenario, this a fantasy scenario of where everything construed is in their favor, and if every single thing went totally their way, according to their worldview and their understanding of the situation, then you would have to owe all of this money. And it never happens like
And
that.
a demand letter doesn't mean you're even doing something wrong. They just don't like it sometimes.
For sure, and
sometimes that's what it might mean.
and this the whole reason why I talk about demand letters and I try to be outspoken about it is because people don't realize they're often getting taken advantage of when you receive a demand letter.
Yeah.
It costs someone $250, $300 to pay a lawyer to send a demand letter. 7 out of 10 times people will comply just out of fear.
Wow.
And this whole idea that I don't want to get sued. And I deal with it all the time. And every time it's like, okay, I'll do a little bit of investigation into the claim. I'm like, no, this person's wrong. They're just trying to scare you.
Is your first
This is a
phrase okay,
response.
calm down?
No, I can tell you being a lawyer is so much of it is also being
Like a therapist?
Yeah, it's a therapist. But this is what I tell people. Everything's going to be okay. It's going to be awesome. I had a client go through something 2 weeks ago. It was, she never had any experience with this. And for me, I do it all the time. She was, very emotional, very upset, called me crying all the time. And I was like, look, I promise you this is going to end. It's never not ended well for any of my clients.
Yeah.
And it was so fulfilling for me at the end when we got what we wanted, because the other person was a bully, which is what happens. And I just said, the first conversation we had, I told you everything was going to be okay. And for me, I just wish that they would just listen and trust, right? Okay, he's got my back, because in the end, we got exactly what we wanted. The person went away, but unfortunately for that person, it was 10 days of mega stress.
Yeah. And the funny thing is now, the next time they get a demand letter, there's so much less stress. By the 4th, 5th demand letter, they're like, oh, here we go again. I've gotten a few.
Yeah.
And I think the bigger you get, you're going to get more. That's just the way it is, right? Because you're getting more attention. So now more people see your eye. If you have 25 members and you're in this little shopping center, no one's sending you a demand letter.
Yeah.
Maybe, but the bigger you get, the more attention you have, the more people that are a little worried about you, the more people want to hold you down. You're probably going to get more and more of them served. Those of you guys watching it on Facebook right now, live, go ahead and comment, say, yes, I've gotten one not worried.
Yeah,
So-
that would be great. I would feel great about that.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So, like, where else are you speaking? I mean, are you speaking in Brazil? Is that why you're there? Or, like, where do you go, and where do people follow you more?
I'm heading to New York on Monday to speak at a Mind Body University event
Got it,
in New
cool.
York City.
Okay.
Which is great. I've done a bunch of things with them and I love them. To be honest, the interesting thing about the path that I've chosen is that I've really prioritized my lifestyle and travel above everything else. The town that I live in, Brazil, has 500 people. There are no roads. It's only sand. There's a river and there's an ocean. I spend all my days outdoors. I've produced videos for a YouTube channel. I haven't really followed it. Like, to be honest, thank God my legal practice has grown in a very, very organic way by word of mouth. I think with the book being published,
Yep,
it'll
they did a lot for
continually
your
grow.
authority
But
figure, yeah.
I've made the choice to enjoy living my life and not, having lived in a lot of cultures around the world. Firstly, Mike, I'm very inspired by you.
Thank
I
you.
see you are goal driven. I've met everyone who works in this office. Like, this is a special place. Whatever it is that you want to achieve, you will definitely achieve it.
I appreciate
Like,
that.
it's a great culture. It's diligent. It's intentional. It's amazing. And I think that having been so many places in the world, I lived in India for a while. I've lived in Asia. I lived in Australia. I lived in the Middle East. I lived in South America. The thing that I've learned about myself is that in some ways I'm very satisfied with what I have, and it doesn't always need to be more. It does. And I'll never forget when I first started my business, I was living in Vancouver at the time before I took it online. And I remember at that point I was making enough money, and I just thought, like, what's the point? What's an extra $5,000 really going to do for me? I would rather I'd rather enjoy other things and learn languages and be in different cultures and learn and question and meet characters. I'm like very curious for characters when I travel. In a strange way, the way that I've seen my personal contribution, or like if I do have any contribution, I try to show others that they can do it as well. Specifically lawyers. Like, I get so many emails from lawyers, young lawyers, or someone who's completely miserable working in law. And part of why I continually travel and continually go is to show people, like, look, like, you can do whatever you want.
Oh, when I heard that, I was so mad I had 4 kids. Because I was like, that's the life I want. I would love. Now not to say that I can't do it with 4 kids.
Yeah.
There's reasons why I can't. But it's definitely more difficult.
For sure, and it's been a choice for me to not have kids. Has been a choice.
Yeah.
I've had I don't know if I've had opportunities to have kids or not, but I've had opportunities to find partnership and quote unquote settle down, as they say. But at this point, I want to show people. Traveling's my passion. I want to show people that they can do both. You can take an industry, something like law, and however fixed it may be and however traditional it may be, and just like turn it on its head. The whole reason why I work with health and fitness is because, like, I love the gym, I love yoga, I love all of these things. These are the people I want to help. If I have one piece of advice, albeit unsolicited, the one thing that I've learned from my 3 years in business is choose your clients.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
If you choose your clients, life's
so much easier.
Life is just, I'm human, I made a mistake. When you choose your clients, you have great relationships with people, you're excited to do work for them, you get motivated by them.
And you get more great clients because great clients hang out with great clients.
Yeah.
And bad ones hang out with bad ones. So the last thing you want is referrals from more time-consuming, stressful, what do you call it? When you don't get on the same page. What's that called? Compromising.
Sure.
Clients, right?
Yeah.
Cory, man, I love your stuff. I loved it when I saw you speak. I loved everything I heard on the show. Guys, just so you know, right after this, Cory's going to be actually helping contribute, which is something that, I thank you for doing that as well, to Loud Rumor VT, where he's going to be doing a lot of what we talked about here, but a little bit more in depth on how you could do certain things. For those of you guys that aren't sure about Loud Rumor VT, it's Loud Rumor Virtual Training. It's basically everything you need, from sales to marketing to advertising to PR, HR, finance, recruiting, everything you could think of, legal. on how to really be a successful fitness studio owner, it's all there. So go to loudroomervt.com. You can also give us a call at 480-750-9774. Cory, where can people follow you? Where can they hear more about you?
My website is consciouscounsel.ca, Instagram Conscious Counsel. I'm also launching an online course,
Okay.
Which was a lot of fun to shoot. Yeah, and it just basically, it's a bit more legal in the sense of looking at things like contractors versus employees and waivers of liability. And it's just me basically speaking and making law fun. So yeah, through the Conscious Counsel website, you can sign up to our newsletter or just on Instagram.
Perfect. For everyone listening, we'll put all those links in the show note page. For everybody watching, you saw all those things pop up on the screen as we were talking about them. And then if you want to learn more about them, you can also just, again, give us a call at that number. You'll see it right here for everyone watching. And we'll go ahead and make sure you get linked up with Cory and how you can get set up with them.
Cool.
Man, this was great. We
Thanks,
needed
Mike.
this episode. We needed this one.
I'm happy we did it.
Thanks, man.
Cheers, buddy.
For everyone watching, everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will talk to you in the next show. Thanks for watching. If you like this episode, make sure you subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play, or YouTube. And to watch more episodes and get exclusive links from each episode, go to gsdshow.com. Again, that's gsdshow.com.